My name once again is Pagamile Majola. I am standing in. I'm your guest presenter today and tomorrow. Thank you so much for being with us on Salam Media. Now, for this next segment of the show, which I'm really interested in, we will be chatting to the host of Borderlines. We'll be speaking to Nigerian Broadcast Journalist. Her name is Ireti Bakare-Yusuf. Thank you so much, ma'am, for being on the show. Today, we are going to be focusing on US soldiers arriving in Nigeria to aid in the fight against Islamist militants. Welcome to Salam Media. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining
Thank
us.
you. Good morning. How are you? It's my pleasure.
I'm fine. I'm very well, ma'am. And how are you?
I'm good.
So let's get straight into it. As part of our Africa focus, we are obviously honing in on what is happening in Nigeria. The fact that about 100 US soldiers have arrived. We're talking here boots on the ground in Nigeria. And it is claimed that this is part of this fight against Islamist militants. What is your take on this situation?
Well, it's interesting. It's actually 200
Oh,
military
it's 200.
US, yes, 200 US military personnel, soldiers specifically, who are in our country now. So if I take you back a little bit, you'll remember that sometimes in October last year, President Trump designated Nigeria a CPC, which is country of particular concern, based on his allegation of Christian genocide. That's a quote. Of course, our government responded immediately saying there is no such thing. We have terrorism in Nigeria, but it's not just Christians that are being killed, Muslims are being killed too. And in truth, more Muslims are killed than Christians. That's just the unfortunate truth, albeit nobody should ever be killed. Nobody should ever have to be, have to lose their homes. The tragedy, the massacre that we see, especially in the north of Nigeria, should never, ever, ever happen to anybody, irrespective of whether they're religious in one way or the other. So, but that is the truth. The unfortunate thing is a lot of Muslims are being killed. A lot of Christians are also being killed, but more Muslims are being killed in any event. Anyway, President Trump then threatened to come into Nigeria, guns are blazing again. That's a direct quote. So, of course, there were several diplomatic efforts, meetings, some PR, all sorts of stuff happened. And then on Christmas Day, the United States struck in Sokoto, which is in northern Nigeria. They struck in Sokoto, which was interesting because to all of us, especially those of us who watch this, because why Sokoto? What's going on? So the what they had said was they struck in Sokoto to strike Iswa, but we had not heard anything from that Sokoto, especially from that particular in Sokoto for a long time. And in detail today, we don't actually know what was achieved, which is which is the other very strange thing. Anyway, that happens. The Nigerian government, the question was, did our government know? Did our government not know? Then they said they know, but it was some, part of some sort of agreement. And we're thinking, okay, you know, but you can't give us the details. Incidentally, up until now, our president has never ever made a statement. Never. We have
No
the
statement on this.
from the president, from that airstrike
Wow.
in December. Our president has not said anything. Um, the Minister of Foreign Affairs had been on CNN and spoken to the country, but we haven't heard anything at all from President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So that happened, and then roll into February, we then hear that a small team of American military, they were going to be coming in again to support our military, etc. It's all the weird thing about this whole. there's nothing direct. We're not getting direct information. We are not getting direct information or communication. It's all very opaque. It's a little bit here and a little bit there.
Mm.
And then, we have to sort of try and fix a picture of it. So
Oh,
where we are right now is there are 200 US military personnel in Nigeria on Nigerian soil. And
so tell
we've
me.
seen pictures of AFRICOM, etc. Go ahead.
So tell me, what are local Nigerians saying about this? I mean, are there any fears, for example, that the presence of 200 on the, ground forces of members of the American military, is there no fear that there's possible interference, that the Nigerian government is basically opening itself up to external military interference from the United States?
Well, indeed, there is talk of what does this mean for our sovereignty? Where is the respect for the sovereignty of Nigeria? What is the agreement that was made? Because if this isn't interfering with our sovereignty, then we can only presume that an agreement was made with our government. But such an agreement, such a sort of, shape shifting agreement has to be done through the National Assembly. That hasn't happened. So, what is going on? So, there are
Ireti, can you
intellectual
hear me?
elites,
Oh, can you? Yeah.
academic, senior lawyers, legal luminaries. Yes, I can. Yeah,
Okay.
senior luminaries. They wrote a release the other day, which an open letter to the president or to the government saying, look, you have to tell us what is going on. But whatever is going on, Nigerian sovereignty must be paramount. So we don't know. Now, you've got to understand something about Nigeria. It's a beautifully insane, yet very, very complex country. We have over 300 of ethnic groups, okay? And you have the main three ethnic groups, which is the Hausas, which is the Igbos, and the Yorubas. You have those three. And of course, there's often all this back and forth between the three ethnic groups. But outside of that is that you have the smaller, so you have the second majorities, if you like. That's what I like to call them, because they're not minorities. They have theirs as well. So in pretty much a lot of pockets, you have ethnic clashes that are going on. Okay, so that's just part of the history and the structure, the society, the Nigerian structure that is a combination of over 300 ethnic groups. Now, so like I said, the elites, he had some elites, intellectual elites, luminaries, etc., and legal elites who wrote a letter demanding that the government give us an explanation, warning the government about the peril of Nigerian sovereignty if this continues. But so far, again, as I said, there's nothing really, really, really happening. There's a part of the country. The other thing that happened with the United States is, I must mention this, is that there were those who were lobbying in the US. The Nigerian government hadn't appointed any ambassadors. Okay. So, for instance, we didn't have an ambassador in the United States. The United States had always had an issue, even before this present administration, about Nigeria's blasphemy laws. Nigeria's blasphemy laws are laws that were inherited, believe it or not, back from the colonials. It was the
Jeez.
colonials that created blasphemy laws. So effectively, you can't stand in the middle of Nigeria and say, I don't believe in God or God doesn't exist. You
Right.
know, and their religious laws. And then if you come into this Fourth Republic, which is where we are, which is the part, the democracy after military rule, you then had Sharia law in, I think it's 16 northern states. Okay, you have Sharia law, which again contradicts. So both the blasphemy law and the Sharia law contradicts the Nigerian constitution, which effectively states that Nigeria is a secular country. Well, how
Right.
can we be a secular country if we're having Sharia law? So in Nigeria, we celebrate Christianity, we celebrate Islam,
Islam.
and that's just the way it is. I'm not a religious person. I don't do religion. For those who do religion, that is the way Nigeria is. So a kind of we've always had a kind of religious marriage, if
Right.
you like. Christians marry Muslims, Muslims marry Christians. Our president is a Muslim, his wife is a Christian.
As a
It's
Christian.
very normal. Yeah.
Mm.
So the idea of a Christian genocide, really, because in order for something to be a genocide, I mean, I've done
It has to
extensive
be
coverage,
deliberate.
probably the only journalist in Nigeria that's done the most coverage on Israel and Gaza and the genocide going on in Gaza, which, albeit the killing might have reduced, it certainly hasn't ended. In any event, genocide has to follow stated intention. There has never been any stated intention by the state to get rid of Christians. So how
Sure.
then do you call it a genocide? We have massacres, we have mass killings. It applies to Muslims, it applies to Christians, but it's certainly not a genocide. But there are those who would like to believe it's a genocide, who did actually lobby the United States that it's a genocide based on the simple fact or based on a falsehood or their belief that, look, we have a Muslim ticket. That means
Right.
that we have a president who is a Muslim, we have a vice president who is a Muslim, which often isn't the case. The last
I
time we had a
see.
Muslim ticket was uh, um, um, Abiola, who was the president designate, who actually never sworn in because he was then assassinated or he was killed. He died in detention. But then, he's also known to be one of the most popular presidents that never was. That's
If
Moshood
if if if
Abiola,
if, if I
and
may
he had
if
a Muslim ticket, Muslim
if
ticket.
if I may interrupt, I'm so sorry, because
Go ahead.
unfortunately we are running out of time. But I really appreciate your input. Just your last final parting shot on this issue, because as you said, it's very opaque. Going forward, what is it that the Nigerian government has communicated, and what do we know about this plan, or do we know nothing? We're just waiting.
We don't know anything. We just presume that they know. We know there's a working committee which they had put together after the government went, or rather, government reps, including the National Security Advisor, after they went to the United States, which also included our Attorney General. We know there was a working committee. But incidentally, just I think it was last week or the week before, the United States then came out with two bills. And we don't have the time for me to go into that bill, but one of the things they did in that bill was to list certain groups as designate them as terrorists, and put all sorts of sanctions on them. An individual that was on there is Mr. Rabiu Kwankwaso, who is one of the main political opposition leaders. So that's very curious in itself, because in Nigeria, we're already gearing towards election season. There's elections,
I
national elections next
see.
year, and all sorts of machinations are going on. We can't say we know because we don't know. But what we do know is that the United States has come up with this bill, pretty much telling Nigeria what to do, how to do it, and what they expect from us, which, quite frankly, is wrong. It's
It's a
totally out of
vi-
order. It's
it's a
disrespect and it's a violation
blatant
of our
violation of
democracy.
sovereignty.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. So we
It
wait and see what they will do. Incidentally, before I go, what they didn't do, though, was to include the over 100 list of terror groups that have been listed by the Nigerian government. They didn't include them, which is what's also
very,
curious.
very suspicious. On that note, thank you so much for your time, Ireti Bakare-Yusuf, who has thank you so much for taking us through that. And I think this is definitely a story we need to watch. Salam Media will stay on this matter because, of course, we have an interest on Africa. Thank you for your time and have a good day. Thank you.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right. And on that note, we're going to take a very quick short break, and then we're going to end with our last interview.